There's a line, I can't remember what movie, but it's been used in television programs, where the person sits back and says, I like it when a well-organized plan comes together. And so this evening, for those of you who are here who don't care much for organized religion, then this is the place that you found. We're pretty disorganized this evening. Christmas and Easter sermons, or fourth Sunday of Advent, I should say, or Christmas Eve, and Easter are always hard sermons because you have people who come in that you don't see the rest of the year, and I'm always glad to see you. Wherever you worship, I'm glad to see you. But it does pose a little bit of a challenge because, for instance, when I'm preaching, I usually know where the potholes are. If you're a pastor, you know where people's pain may be, and you know where to be careful, not in a bad way, but to be sensitive. I planned this evening some time ago to talk about what I see as another one of those gulfs, if you will, that we live in, the tensions we live in around the holidays, the holy days. And so you will find anticipation contrasted to reality. And if I ask for a show of hands and volunteers, you could really start giving us some interesting stories about how that's played out in your life. That's kind of how life is, isn't it? There's what we anticipate and then what the reality is. I always say to couples, actually, I'm not sure why this last couple of days I've been on wedding stuff, because I talked about a wedding service Sunday and two words. But when I'm talking with couples who are getting married, there's a lot of things we cover. But I always throw in, because we got good wedding directors, but I always just throw in so they can keep it in their minds that they need to think about a difference between processionals and recessionals. And how I kind of explain that is, I want you, when you get ready to come in, especially the bride or the groom, however you're coming in, think Carly Simon. Now, don't look at the person you're marrying and start singing, "You're So Vain." That's not what I mean. But have it playing in your head, anticipation. And walk slowly, deliberately, because that's how you process. It's anticipation. Everybody's been anticipating it, and they're still anticipating it. And when we say the final blessing, and you've made your sign of affection, you need to switch off and think Kool and the Gang. Right? Celebration time. Come on. That's a celebration. And that way the pace is nice and it picks up because people are ready to go party. Right? So you got to have that pacing, that tension, if you will. Advent is a time, those 4 weeks before Christmas, Advent's a time of preparation. We've been talking about that. We've been waiting so patiently here. Well, we've tried to do that here, but not necessarily the merchants. I still remember in mid-October when I was looking at one last piece, this bargain of patio furniture, and almost got hit by a forklift when they were moving the Christmas decorations in. Anticipation and waiting. Well, except for the music. I hate to go shopping always, but I really hate to go shopping at Christmas time. And I feel badly for employees who have to listen 8-hour and plus shifts of bad Christmas music. And so by the time they get to Christmas Eve, it's the last thing they want to do is to, get caught up in more Christmas music. Whereas here we wait. I have people everywhere I've been who they're always grumbling and grumbling. Well, when are we going to sing a carol? These are not carols. How can I get in a Christmas spirit? Well, no, you're not supposed to be in a Christmas spirit. You got 12 days for that. Hold on. Let's prepare. Let's pace ourselves. Let's do anticipation music a little bit, right? And then, of course, there's, decorations. Same thing. You know, you go in a store in mid-October, and it's a little different here. You know, after 20 years in Dallas, decorations don't usually come into the big stores until about November 1st. And the reason for that is, you know, we're in Texas and Dallas. Day of the Dead is a huge thing. And so everybody's cashing in on Halloween and Day of the Dead stuff. And then we start cashing in on whatever's next. But here, it's, you know, it moves quicker. We can't wait for the next thing. I heard a piece on public radio this week about this, like these new toys, and I hadn't heard of them. I'm just so out of the loop about that. And they're called surprise toys. Has anybody heard about surprise toys? Yeah? And what I'm understanding is that these kids get these things, they don't know what they are, and so they begin opening them and seeing what the surprise is. It's like we used to do with Cracker Jacks, except you don't get any candy and the prizes are more expensive. You know, so I heard a mother talking in this interview who said, well, you know, my daughter loves this, and so she just digs in, and she's so excited to open these up and see what's inside. But then there was a little footnote. The toys are hardly ever played with. The joy is in getting through the process of getting to the goal. But once we get to the goal, well, that maybe wasn't what we thought it would be. We've been waiting for Jesus' birth. Waiting. And now it's ended. We have 12 days to celebrate, and then some of us even get to celebrate when we hit the next day, which is Epiphany, because that's when we get the good news that we're all included in God's plan. What joy that is. People in Jesus' day were waiting. They kept waiting. They kept hoping. They were waiting for a Messiah. They were waiting for someone who would save them. They were waiting for someone who would restore the realm of King David, who would cast off the oppressors. And they had had a series of oppressors that faced the horrible agony of the Babylonian conquest and seeing leadership carried off. Then they had faced the Persians, and then the Greeks, and now the Romans. And it looked as if, except for a small period of time, which is what, of course, Hanukkah is about, except for a small period of time, they just kept waiting. When will this happen? When will this one come? Many tried to tell the people before Jesus' birth, they tried to tell the people to be careful of the expectations. That the realm of God looked a particular way, and that was the word of the prophets. But people, they don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. And we even get a hint before tonight's scripture that someone already knew that it wouldn't look like people thought it would look. A text that many of you music lovers probably already are well familiar with. Mary gets word. She's told the supposed good news that God's chosen her as a vessel. According to Luke, before the event ever takes place, she breaks out in a song. My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he's looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. Surely from now on, all generations will call me blessed. For the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. His mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He's shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He's brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things, and sent the rich away empty. He's helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, according to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham. Luke didn't quite get it. I would throw Sarah in there. She had something to do with this. Abraham and Sarah, and to their descendants forever. Mary's song, which in fact, if you read the Hebrew scriptures hundreds of years earlier, was Hannah's song, framed a different way. You see, they thought that the Messiah would come and fix things, would put them in the rightful place. They didn't know who this child would be and what this child would be about. The reality is that this sweet baby that we talk about, sing about, sentimentalize, this sweet baby comes to turn the empire and all the empires that would succeed the empire upside down. Would call for those who follow to envision a place where God's rule would be made. The wolf and the lamb lying down together thing. True peace. People loving each other and respecting each other, including each other. That's the one that they didn't see coming. I'm struck this evening. I'm struck about how powerful Christmas is. And don't worry, I'm getting to the end. I'm struck by how powerful Christmas is. I'm friends with any number of you on Facebook, those of you in the church. I sit back and read your posts. But I'm afraid you read mine. And here's what I find fascinating. Given the political turmoil in this country and where you are in your respective places, right? Every one of those places is represented right here, right now. But you're here by the grace of God. The miracle, that's the grace of God. You're not going to get to talk politics tonight, so you can forget about it. But just know this, that while we may debate how power gets used in our national greater scheme, the one who came to say that everybody is included in God's realm. That everyone is loved of God. And that everyone has a place and a role. Sadly, the baby Jesus came and grew up to be a man and called people to follow him. And then after the early breaking out of the Spirit at Pentecost, the church has spent about 2,000 years trying to stand in the way of what God was up to. Let's not stand in the way tonight. Let's let grace abound through us. Let our spirits be transformed by this little one who grew up to be a human being who called people to follow him. This is what Christmas is about. This is what it's always been about. And that means that we have to find a way to respect and talk and love one another. Even if it is Uncle Henry that you said came to Christmas dinner. This is what God's grace is now and always has been about.